In philosophy, correct reason, often called right reason or recta ratio, is valid, orderly thinking that accurately intuits first principles and draws conclusions that are both logically sound and oriented toward the true human good. It is not merely the absence of fallacies, but the intellect's proper alignment with reality in both its speculative and practical operations. Core concepts of right reason. Classical thinkers distinguish two complementary dimensions: theoretical right reason, recta ratio speculabilium, the capacity to grasp basic, universal truths, such as the principle of non-contradiction and causality, and to proceed through valid steps of deduction toward objective knowledge. Practical right reason, recta ratio agibilium, the application of reason to action, ensuring that conclusions align with moral and rational human goods. These are unified in the virtue of prudence, prudentia, which Aquinas defines as recta ratio agibilium, right reason concerning things to be done. Prudence perfects the intellect so that it both knows the true good and directs the will toward it in concrete circumstances. Thus, the three core elements work together. First principles, the capacity to grasp basic, universal truths, speculative and practical, without error. Practical first principles include the foundational insight of synderesis: good is to be done and pursued, and evil avoided. Logical order, proceeding through valid steps of deduction or practical syllogism to yield conclusions that are objectively true or rightly ordered. Ethical alignment, ensuring that reason does not remain merely formal but orients the agent toward genuine human flourishing. Formal logic alone can serve wicked ends. Right reason requires that the intellect direct the will in accordance with moral virtue. Historical views, the ancients and scholastics. The concept traces roots to the Greek orthos logos, right reason, in the Stoics and Aristotle. Aristotle linked right reason to the life of virtue. Thomas Aquinas developed it most systematically, treating recta ratio as the rule of moral action and identifying prudence as its perfected form. For the scholastics, right reason participates in the eternal law and serves as the proximate measure of human acts. Immanuel Kant reframed practical reason as the faculty that legislates the moral law through the categorical imperative and structures moral agency. While operating in a different metaphysical framework, autonomy rather than natural teleology, he retained the insistence that pure practical reason must guide action according to universal principles and is not reducible to inclination or instrumental calculation. Modern epistemology, contemporary discussions, including entries in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, distinguish normative reasons, considerations that favor an action or belief, from motivating reasons, the reasons for which an agent actually acts. This distinction echoes, in a different idiom, the classical concern that reason be rightly ordered rather than merely effective or self-interested. The Architecture of Right Reason, a case study in ethical and logical alignment. Introduction. In classical philosophy, right reason, recta ratio, is not merely the absence of logical fallacies. Rather, it represents the complete alignment of the human intellect with objective reality, encompassing the intuition of foundational truths, first principles, valid progression, logical order, and orientation toward the objective human good, ethical alignment, all perfected by the virtue of prudence. To understand this holistic concept, one can examine a classic ethical dilemma: the duty of a physician confronting manufactured medical scarcity. The scenario: the siphoned cure. Imagine a hospital operating during a regional health crisis. A critical, life-saving antidote is in short supply. A wealthy facility patron demands that the entire remaining stockpile be reserved exclusively for their family, offering a massive financial donation that could upgrade the hospital's infrastructure in the future. The attending physician must decide how to allocate the medicine. An action guided by recta ratio demonstrates how the three pillars function in unison under the direction of prudence. Deconstructing the response through recta ratio. 1. First principles, the foundation. The physician begins by recognizing undeniable moral and intellectual axioms. Among these is the principle of non-contradiction, that a human life cannot simultaneously possess intrinsic value and be treated as a mere financial commodity. The physician also grasps the practical first principle that medicine exists to heal the sick according to need. To divert the antidote for non-medical metrics, wealth, directly contradicts the nature and purpose of the healing arts. 2. Logical order, the progression. Moving from the foundation, the physician constructs a valid practical syllogism. 3. Major premise, medical resources must be distributed according to objective medical necessity in order to fulfill the purpose of medicine. 4. Minor premise, reserving the entire supply for one wealthy family ignores objective medical necessity and leaves higher-risk patients to perish. 5. Conclusion. Therefore, the medicine must be distributed on the basis of patient triage, and the patron's request must be denied. The reasoning is orderly, free of emotional bias or cognitive error, and ordered toward action. Ethical alignment, the practical application. Formal logic alone could serve bad ends. A villain can reason with perfect consistency. Right reason, however, requires that the intellect direct the will toward objective human flourishing. By rejecting the bribe and allocating the medicine according to medical need, the physician exercises prudence. The intellect rightly discerns the good and commands a just, courageous act. Reason and moral virtue are harmonized. Conclusion. This scenario captures the totality of right reason. Without first principles, the physician would fail to see the contradiction in commodifying life. Without logical order, pressure or emotion would produce an invalid choice. Without ethical alignment perfected by prudence, logic could be used selfishly. Recta ratio is the synthesis of all three, knowing what is true, thinking straight, and doing what is right.